I wanted to talk a little bit about my interview on Tucker Carlson's podcast. I know that you guys covered, I think, more substantive elements of it, and thank you for doing that. We're not gonna do that in this coverage, okay? Because I actually want to kind of get myself on record saying what I think is gonna happen in 2028.
Interesting.
Big prediction. So without further ado,
can't wait.
Let's get into it. I heard that speech, and by the time I finished listening to it, I thought to myself, he's gonna run for president. That was a presidential speech.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that's literally the last thing on my mind.
Really?
Like, I would never do that.
I asked Tucker Carlson a question he didn't expect while I appeared on his podcast, and I thought his full answer was, well, interesting. What about you, Cenk?
Yeah, I don't believe him. So it's okay. Look, guys, I'm, as now most of the internet knows, I'm not on the camp of purity tests, and so the fact that Tucker Carlson has a correct position on Israel is wonderful, and the speech that Ana was referring to, some parts of it I disagreed with, but the part about Israel was not only true but important. Somebody needed on the right wing to say what he said, right? Like, enough. Nobody's interested in hating Jews. I don't know why people are talking about that. Rogan says the same thing. I don't know why people even bring that up. This has nothing to do with that. It's a foreign government, and they do have a lock on our government. They do, right? So that is super important for the left and right to unite on that. Doesn't mean we agree with everything Tucker says, not even close. Same thing for him to us, right? But now when you get into like, yes, but how do things shape out in 2028? No, I've been telling you guys on the show, so you're not gonna be surprised by this. I think Tucker's gonna run. I think Tucker's has been, let's put it this way. If he is not angling to run, he is accidentally going on the exact path you would go on to run in 2028.
Totally agree with you. And in fact, when I say that the speech he gave at Turning Point USA sounded like a presidential speech, it wasn't just what he had to say about Israel or foreign policy. Take the whole speech and the entire message in that speech, which was Americans cannot afford to have children, they can't afford to buy homes. Why is invading Iran or going to war with Iran the priority here? This shouldn't be the priority. So a lot of people hyper focus on what he had to say about Israel because of the fact that he said what is incredibly provocative in the context of a conservative conference. But if you take his whole speech, the message was about, we need to focus on the American people. The economic situation here is brutal for us. And I agree with him on that message. Now, let's give you the exchange I had with Tucker with more context so you get a sense of what I'm talking about. Take a look. I heard that speech, and by the time I finished listening to it, I thought to myself, he's gonna run for president. That was a presidential speech.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that's literally the last thing on my mind.
Really?
Like, I would never do that. No, I mean, unless I was like told by a higher power or something, but no, I don't think I'm suited for that. Of course, I don't want that. I have a lot of happiness and balance in my life. I have a huge family. I'm the oldest male in that family, so I feel like I have a lot of things I'm paying attention to. I have dogs who I really love. So no, like nothing about that is appealing at all. And I've never had any political ambition of any kind, and I have even less now.
So maybe you guys can all critique me for my selective hearing, but I only heard one part in his answer, and this is the part I'm referring to.
No, I mean, unless I was like told by a higher power or something.
He's gonna run for president, Cenk. He's gonna run for president. It's so obvious to me. He is. He's gonna do it.
So look, he these days he's very focused on his faith, and so that is the kind of thing that somebody who was gonna run later would say, right? So again, we don't know. We're all guessing, right? And we're honest about what we know and what we're guessing at, right? And so, and then I want to talk in a little bit about his potential competition on the Republican side and then the Democratic side. But look, as an atheist, I don't get that out of like, well, if God tells me later, okay. But look, the thing I do get is this country's in trouble, and our politicians, 98% of them are corrupt. So this is where we're having this strange agreement with right-wing populists and left-wing populists, right? Because Tucker in that speech, there were some parts he said about immigration that really bothered me and I'm against. But otherwise he's accurately assessing the same problem we're seeing,
yes,
right?
Yep.
Housing prices, drug prices, lower wages, the average American getting crushed. My assessment is corporate rule. Corporate rule has taken over our government, and the donor class has taken over our government. It's corporations plus now foreign governments, right? And the second part of why that speech that he did was so important, and I remember I watched it that night and I was like, whoa. I might have texted you, this might have been historic.
Yeah, you did, and I agree with you. I do think that was a historic speech because of what he was saying out loud that you typically would not typically, you would never hear at any conservative event, period. You would never hear at a liberal event, period.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things here. Like when Trump started noticing the populism, and then in my opinion, he used it as a prop for his own ego,
cynically,
right?
Yep.
Yep, and he misused it. That's why he doesn't release the Epstein files. He does what Israel asked for, gives giant tax breaks to the wealthy while cutting Medicaid and SNAP, et cetera, right? But he was the first one to realize, oh, don't go establishment, don't go elites, go towards populism, whether you mean it or not. But for a lot of populists, these are real problems. These are not props. These are not things that people are using cynically. Now, in terms of Tucker, I don't cynical or not cynical. I have no freaking idea, right? If you told me Tucker's 100% cynical, he's using it in the same way as Trump, I would say, okay, I'd believe you. I wouldn't be like shocked by that. No, really? On the other hand, here's what I really care about. And this is why I believe in populism from the left. I want these things done, right? If someone lowers drug prices, I don't care what their reasoning was. And I don't care if they're fake or real because the policy itself is real. Pass me a law that says that we don't have to pay these outrageous drug prices without negotiating in a free market. And then if somebody tells me, yeah, but you did it for an evil purpose, I don't care. Okay, I just want that bill passed. I want lower housing prices. And I do care if they use it for other evil purposes in the real world, right? But don't tell me they haven't done that, but they're super evil, so we can't agree with them when they're agreeing with us. And look, we've been here the whole time. Left-wing populists have been anti-war, anti-corruption, and for the average American from day one. So if the populist right is now coming to our side, I'm gonna take yes for an answer on those issues.
Yeah, and look, just seeing, but one of the main reasons why I decided to go on his podcast is because I'm curious about him, right? Like we see him in the media, we hear what he has to say, but it's entirely different to get to experience it for yourself. And he lives in rural Maine. It is as rural as it gets. He employs locals, he lives pretty modestly considering how unbelievably wealthy he is. I mean, not only was his biological mother wealthy, his adoptive mother was also incredibly wealthy, an heir to the Swanson fortune. And he lives in a rural part of the country in a modest home. Like it just, you would expect him to live in like a mega mansion in Beverly Hills or something, but that's not the case, which I thought was interesting. Now, but putting that aside, after we did the episode, just like any other show, his team clipped out specific videos from our conversation. And one of the videos that got published is the following. Let's take a look at a graphic. This is what the thumbnail looks like. It quotes me, he is going to run, right? Because I said that I think he's gonna run. And I wanted to watch it and see, if there was any editing in it. And they did include a clip from his Turning Point USA speech in the context of this clip. So I want you to take a look at it so you know what I'm talking about. The speech you gave at Turning Point, you said a few things in there that I might not agree with, but like the overall message was so courageous, and I never thought in a million years I would hear it at a conservative conference. Never.
At some point, I want to look around and see a better country. I want to see a country I recognize. I don't want to see people sleeping on the sidewalk. I don't see people ODing on drugs. I want to know where those drugs coming from. Why can't you stop it? You've got the US military. Don't you have SEAL Team 6? Like, what are they doing today? Don't you have Delta Force? You could give me another segment about how impressive the US military is? I believe you. Why aren't they employed to make my country better? Why are my cities disgusting? I don't even want to go there. It smells like weed and halal food. And you're lecturing me about how it's a great moral victory that I kicked the boys off the girls' soccer team? Good, I'm so glad. But let's do the real stuff, like making New York livable and creating an economy where my kids can have kids. How about this? How about we just make the measure really super simple? Can my children have without the benefit of like the great luck I have had, can they have a roughly approximate life that I had? Or how about just a middle-class life?
You know, the kind of speech that you gave wouldn't have happened 5 years ago.
What provoked him to give that speech, that specific speech? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And by the way, I like the smell of halal food. Like, I don't mind that at all. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
So look, that's where he's populist right wing, right? He says obnoxious things like the smell of halal food, like as if that's some sort of terrible thing, right? But if you notice, he also did say minimize trans issues. So that's him powering down on the culture wars. Because it's not like he hasn't powered up. I mean, it's not like he's not the one that did the M&M segments and a million other segments, right? So, and in the conversation with Ana, he said many times that he had apologized for some of his past positions. I don't know which positions. I don't know which ones.
He has. In researching and listening to episode after episode of his podcast, he does denounce himself on specific things that he has said in the past that he regrets.
Yeah. So, but the reason why I thought the speech was important, not because of the Kalal stuff, it's because he is breaking the mythology that both mainstream media, which same mythology we break from the left, like Israel's, again, I'll use Israel first and then the corporate guys. Israel's our special ally. Anyone who criticizes him is an anti-Semite and a hateful person. And we all owe them another $300 billion. They owe us nothing, et cetera, et cetera. And like all of this propaganda that everybody in Washington takes as a given, it's not a given, it's all lies. So now that we're smashing it from both sides, it's in a little bit of trouble. On the corporate stuff, the reason why Ana said I've never seen a Republican give a speech like that, sure on Israel, but both parties suck on Israel, right? But when you're talking about actually caring about the average American, my whole life, why am I on the left? Because Republicans have been like, oh my God, we got to take care of these poor billionaires. They just haven't gotten enough tax cuts and loopholes and deregulation. And they almost never talk about the average guy, right? Well, it's like they'll say, oh, we're giving small business a tax break, and you'll find out 1% of it applies to small business, 99% applies to giant businesses. So lip service, pretending to care about small business, but always serving corporations, always serving the donors. And that was not the speech that Tucker gave. Now you say, well, is he for real or not? Well, we're gonna find out maybe, if Ana and I are right, we might find out in the 2028 primaries, right? So, and then of course, you never find out until they're actually in office. And in that case, I would say, God forbid, because I want somebody who's on the populist left to win, okay? And so, but is he gonna have a better chance than some of the people that establishment media is propping up?
Yes, I think so.
Like Tom Cotton and Marco Rubio. And mainstream media is like, oh, we're after the spell breaks and we get rid of Trump and MAGA, we'll go right back to the boy, Marco Rubio. I don't think that's gonna happen at all.
His competition is Vance in the primaries.
Yeah, so no, and Hawley. Okay.
And Hawley.
No, definitely Josh Hawley. Okay, so like all the corporate guys are goners. They just don't know it. It's like in Kill Bill when they do that 5-point thing on your heart and you don't know it, but you walk away and then your heart explodes. All their careers have already exploded. They just don't know it because they're surrounded by goofballs in mainstream media. Oh yeah, Marco, you might win. No one MAGA wants. None of the Trump voters want Marco Rubio and neocons and like Tom Cotton. Okay, Hawley's gonna have a real go at it, but the problem is he keeps voting with Trump.
Yeah.
Right, and that's an albatross around his neck. He just cut 12 million people off of Medicaid. He said, oh, I don't want to. He said before and after the bill, but brother, you voted for it.
Yep.
So welcome to that albatross right around your neck, okay? Because those guys that got kicked off of Medicaid, they're gonna be super pissed, and there's no way they're gonna vote for you, right? So then of course, JD Vance. JD Vance is a snake, okay? So, and you could say Tucker's a snake, and I'm super worried about it. I'm worried about all of them, okay? But at least, but then what I would say is if you're right, Tucker's a more sophisticated one. Because Vance is kind of obvious. He took $10 million from Peter Thiel.
Yep.
He was in like third place when he took that money.
Yep.
The money he uses to catapult. He does every kind of favor. Did you know that Vance just went and had a secret meeting with the Murdochs in Montana? Oof. They did not record it in the in the places they were supposed to record it.
Wait, the Murdochs, who Trump is super furious at right now?
Yes.
Those Murdochs?
And it was right before the Wall Street Journal printed their story about Trump and Epstein.
It was right before.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Look, that can go in two different directions.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The Murdochs know that's going to be published soon.
Yes.
Vance didn't know though.
One, they could be giving advance word to Vance, and then he goes and tells Trump. That's the benign, from Republican point of view, the benign explanation.
Right.
Not for us, but for the Republicans, right? The other possibility is, brother, Trump already passed the tax cuts. We're done with them.
Oh God, politics is so dirty.
Yeah.
So dirty.
You're batter up.
Yeah.
We're afraid they're going to find out the Epstein files are Mossad, so we're going to dump it on Trump. So get ready, okay?
Wow.
Here, I'm calling in JD from the bullpen, right? I don't know. There's no way of knowing what was in their secret meeting that has not been leaked, but they definitely had that meeting, and that is clear. So there's a lot of people with tons of baggage. Can Tucker afford mansions? Well, of course he can. He could afford 8 mansions, right? He's living in rural Maine, either because he wants to, or that is what I would do if I was going to run for Republican primary in 2028, right?
As a populist.
As a populist, right?
Yep.
So whether you believe him or not, he has figured out what the right problems are, not necessarily the right solutions, but the right problems, right? And he has figured out that populism is the correct path. So if you're worried about Tucker, then you should be doubly worried, right?
Because he's also incredibly smart. Say what you will about him, he is smart, he is strategic, and for the left, I mean, you look at the landscape on the Democratic side, and I'm just going to be honest, the names that are popping up do not inspire much confidence, and that, I mean, the left should be worried about that. I mean, who's going to run in 2028?
Yeah. So guys, this is why I keep telling you got to join the rebellion. You got to make sure those rebellion pact candidates win so we can win in red districts and have the credibility to run the right candidate in the Democratic primary in 2028. If you run a corporate robot against Tucker, we're going to get mauled.
Slaughtered.
I'm giving you that not as a, hey, that's great. I'm giving you that as a warning. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Because I know Democrats and Democratic ass kissers, they'll be like, oh, you told us Tucker might win, and so that means you wanted it. No, I'm warning, do not run a Kamala Harris type of person against a sophisticated populist. You will get destroyed. Do you know right now, Trump is underwater, 7 points underwater. Republicans are 11 points underwater. So Democrats should be ready to bounce and pounce and take advantage, right? Democrats, 30 points underwater. As Trump is melting down, the Democrats are melting down at a greater rate. If you believe leadership again and you pick someone like Buttigieg or Newsom, it's going to be a slaughter.
Over.
Okay? So no, you have to go populist. You don't have a choice anymore. Even if you're like a Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden loving Democrat, if you pick one of them, it's a guaranteed loss to Tucker Carlson. Okay?
Well, the good
or whoever runs, like Hawley or Vance or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to lose, you pick a corporate robot. But if you don't want to lose, you have to pick a Bernie-style candidate. And yes, I think that there are. I think Ro Khanna, Jon Stewart. I think there's some really interesting choices. Okay, and we'll have those conversations. We'll have those debates. But if you say no, there's a great governor, there's a great senator, former cabinet secretary, and my God, they have so much money they can compete with them. Remember, Hillary and Kamala had way more money than Donald Trump, and they got their clocks cleaned. Stop obsessing about the money, start obsessing about the voters.
Well, the good news is the Democratic establishment seems to have been learning some lessons, which is why they've been so kind to Mamdani in New York City.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.